Hello everyone, good morning to all of you. Welcome to Viti Pathshala. Now today we are going to start with the history part, that is the 7th class term 1, and that we would be completing first the history from 6th to 12th class because I found something missing in our classes, and that was the missing of the continuity. And when we were doing the history, then we were doing the geography, then there is no continuous thing. Now we would be taking a topic and completing it all go. So that would be our target. So we would be doing the history today. 7th class term 1 history would be completed by me today, and tomorrow term 2, and then day after tomorrow the term 3. Means on the Thursday we would be doing the term 2 and term 3. 7th class would be completed this week. So let's start. Now the first chapter that we are going to do today is the sources of the medieval India. So there are the 4 chapters for our study today. So this is the first chapter that we are going to do. Now in this chapter we would be going to study about the medieval India, sources of the medieval India, temple, mosque, tombs, places and forts as an important sources, literary and the inscriptional texts, and accounts of the Arab and the Turkish travelers we would be doing in this class. We would be learning about them in this class. So let's start with this class. Yesterday when I was planning, so I thought like that there is only one book in the 7th and the one book in the 8th, so I forgot. So now I remember that there are the 3 books. So the 3 days would be I would be taking 3 classes for the 7th history, 3 classes for the 8th history, and 3 classes for the 9th history. So it will take approx 15 days to cover me the complete your history would be covered by me in 15 days. So sources of the medieval India. Now introduction. The period AD 700 to the 1200 and from AD 1200 to the 1700 are classified as the early medieval and the later medieval period. So ये period जो है 700 to 1200 and 1200 to 1700 they are classified as the early medieval and the later medieval period respectively. Now numerous and the varied sources are fortunately available to the historians engaging in the study of the medieval India. Now what we are going to study, we are going to study that what are the sources to study the medieval history, what are the things that are available from which we can get to know about the medieval history. Now added to the information that can be gleaned from the inscription, monuments and the coins are the account left by the Arab, Persian and the Turkish chronicles. Now these accounts are rich in the detail and have given first-hand information on the life of the kings, though they provide very little information on the life of the common people. So these things, they give the information more on the life of the kings rather than providing the life of the common people, because they were made by the kings and they portray about the king itself. The opinion of the courtiers and the chronicles are often one-sided, written and the hyperbolic language. exaggerating the king's achievement. So they are telling about the what the king has achieved. And let us now explore the various sources available for the study of the history of the medieval India. Now it says that, do you know the famous words of the Khafi Khan? Who was the Khafi Khan? Khafi Khan was a court emperor of the Aurangzeb. Now he says that it is the duty of the historian, ये duty है एक historian की, it is the duty of the historian to be faithful, to have no hope of profit, no fear of the injury, to show no partiality on one side or the animosity on the other, to know no difference between friend and the stranger, and to write nothing but with the sincerity. मतलब कि किसी की तरफ भी कोई लगाव नहीं है, कोई पैसे की वो लगाव नहीं होनी चाहिए. एक हिस्टोरियन को जो है उसको बिना किसी लगाव के लिखना चाहिए. सो ये खाफी खान ने कहा था. वो वॉज द कोर्ट एम्परर ऑफ द औरंगजेब. Now sources, what are the sources from which we get to know? Sources are supporting material, document or the records in the form of the evidence. Now to help to reconstruct the past. Now classification of the sources. Sources can be your primary sources or your secondary sources. Now what are your primary sources? Now we examine the details of the political, economic and socio-cultural development with the aid of the sources. Now primary sources: inscriptions, monuments and the coins and the information available in them are the primary sources. Whereas secondary sources, the literary works, chronologicals, the travelogues or the biographies and the autobiographies are the secondary sources. So these people used to write, their language have been deciphered, so these are the secondary sources from which we come to know about. Now inscriptions. Now inscriptions, what are the inscriptions? The rock inscriptions, you all know about the from the type of the Ashoka, the inscriptions have been started. So inscriptions are writing engraved on the solid surface. So writing on the solid surface, such as it can be a rock, stone, temple, wall and the metal. Now you can find inscription on the front of your home, that the nameplate of your home is made up of the inscription. Now the king's royal decrees, dedication and the donation, monuments raised in the commemorations of the victories in the war and those built in the memory of the deceased warriors contain the rich information about the concerned era. Now various types of the lands gifted by the Chola kings are known from the inscriptions and the copper plates. They are like the Cholas, they have gifted the Chola kings, they have gifted the lands. Now these are the lands to non Brahmin proprietors. So non Brahmins को जो दी थी वो उसको कहते थे Velen Vagai. Then to the Brahmins is known as the Brahmdeya. मतलब कि ब्राह्मण को दे दिया. So Brahmdeya means the ब्राह्मण को दे दिया. It is the Brahmdeya. Now land of the maintenance of the school, Shalabhog, and the land gifted to the temples, Devdan, मतलब कि भगवान को दान कर दिया, देव को दान कर दिया. दान means the gift. Dan means gift, and the to the temples is means to the Dev. Dev means the god. Now Palich Chandam, that is the land donated to the Jaina institutions. The copper plate grants, which were treated as the legal documents, have significant source of value. The Islamic Persian practices and relatively high cost of the copper plates made the palm leaf and the paper cheaper alternative from the 13th century. So if we write on the copper plate, it would be very costly for us. So that's why they have chosen the alternative, that is the paper or the palm leaf. They started writing on that. Now, several copper plates grants issued during the later Chola period, 10th to the 13th century, record gifts to the individual priest, teacher, who were the Hindu, Buddhist, or the Jain, or the person of the eminence. Now, both the giver and the receiver are very elaborately described in these. Now, by contrast, most stone inscriptions differs. Most stone inscriptions differs in their content. In stone inscription, the beneficence of the donor is recorded. So stone inscription में आपको क्या मिलेगा? The beneficence of donor के बारे में लिखा होगा. The major focus is upon the giver, and the Valugadu plates of the Rajendra Chola first and the Anbil plates of the Sundara Chola are notable example. Uttira Merur inscription in the Kachipuram district, they provide the detailed way in which the village administration was conducted. Now, these was about the inscription. Now, next comes about the monuments. So, monument can be your temple, it can be palaces, it can be mosque, it can be tombs, the forts, the minarets are the collective called as the monument. The Sultan of Delhi introduced a new type of the architecture. The monuments they built had the arcs होते थे, the domes and the minars होती थी. So Delhi Sultanate, you all know that the Qutub Minar was built during the Delhi Sultanate. So these started building the arcs, domes and minarets. The inscription in these monuments contain the rich information which can be used to construct the history, to know about the history. Now, the medieval, that is the Khajuraho monuments. Medieval Khajuraho के जो monuments हैं, they are found in the Madhya Pradesh, and the temples in the Kornak, that is the Odisha. The Dilwara Jain temple, this is very important, many times asked by the UPSC either or the SSC exams. The Dilwara Jain temple, where is it? It is in the Mount Abu, Rajasthan. Now, constitute the valuable sources to understand the religion-centered cultural evolution in the northern India. Temples in the Thanjavur, Brideshwar temple, Gangaikonda, Cholapuram and the Dharasuram symbolize the magnificent structures of the later Cholas built in the Tamil Nadu. This is very also important. Now, Vithal and the Virupaksh temples at the Hampi similarly speak of the contribution of the Vijayanagar rulers. Now, Quat ul Islam Masjid or the yes, Kornak Sun temple also of the Odisha. Now, Qatul Islam Masjid or the Maut Ki Masjid, Jama Masjid, Fatehpur Sikri Dargah, all around the Delhi and the Char Minar, Hyderabad are the important mosque belonging to the medieval time. ये medieval time को belong करती हैं. Now, the forts of the historical importance are like the Agra Fort, the Chittor Fort, Gwalior Fort, and the Delhi Red Fort, as made by the Akbar. Then his successors also made that. And one of the contribution goes to the Shahjahan. Shahjahan built a large number of the forts. Now, Red Fort as well as the Daulatabad, Aurangabad and the Firoz Shah Kotla, Delhi. Then the palaces in the Jaipur, Jaisalmer and the Jodhpur signify the greatness of the Rajput dynasty that wielded enormous power from these places. Qutub Minar and Alai Darwaja, the tomb of the Iltutmish, Balban and all the Mughal rulers are the other prominent structures recognized as the valuable source of the information. Now, cities in the ruins such as the Firozabad, the Tughlaqabad in the North India and the Hampi in the South India remain the rich repositories of the history of the medieval India. Now, next comes to the coins. Now, coins are also important to study the to know about the history. The picture and the legend on the coins convey the name of the kings with their titles and the portraits, events, dates, places, dates, dynasties and the logo. So उन पे जो लिखा होता था उनसे हमें पता चलता है. We come to know about the event, places, dates, dynasties, logos, about the period, about the ruler or about the people of that area. The composition of the metal in the coin gives us the information of the economic condition. How was the economic condition of that area, that empire? It mentions of the king achievement like the military conquest, territorial expansion, trade links and the religious faith can be found on the coins. So that are the also a important source. Now Muhammad Gori has stamped the figure of the goddess Lakshmi. So remember, so he has stamped the goddess of the Lakshmi on his coin and had name inscribed on it. This coin tells us the early Turkish invaders, which was in all likelihood liberal in the religious outlook. So what it tells about the Islamic rulers were the liberal rulers. Now copper jittal are available for the study of the period of the Delhi Sultans. The silver tanka introduced by the Iltutmish, Alauddin Khilji's gold coins, Muhammad bin Tughlaq's the copper token currency, are indicative of the economic prosperity or otherwise of the country of that time. Now a jittal contained the 3.6 grain of the silver. Now 48 jittals were equal to the 1 silver टंका. मतलब कि आपके पास अगर 48 जित्तल आप लेके जाओगे तो वो एक सिल्वर के टंके के बराबर होता था. Next comes we came to know about the history through the religious literatures. The devotional monuments in the South India and the later in the North resulted in the development of the Bhakti or the devotional literature. The Chola period was known as the period of the devotional literature, and works such as the Kamb Ramayanam and the Shekhijar Periya Puranam and the Nalayara Divya Prabhadhamam composed the 12 Ajavars and the compiled by the Nathamuni. Devram composed by the Upper and the Sambandar and the Sudar are compiled by the Nambiyadar Nambi, and the Manikavasar Tiruvasangam all scripted during the Chola times. These are not important, do not concern with these names. ये नेम इतने important नहीं है, ना ही ये एग्जाम में प्रीलिम्स में आते हैं और ना आपको मेंस में लिखने हैं. So you must know about, if a question comes about how do you come to know about the history, what are the sources, then tell the sources from the above point of view. Do not write these names, and these are hard to remember these names. Gita Govindam, that is the 12th century, was a follow-up of the Bhakti movement in the South India. Kabir Das, a 15th century, the mystic point. Okay, Raja. Also had the influence on the Bhakti movement in the India. No, this is the Bhakti 15th century Bhakti movement. Now secular literature, Madhur Vijayam and the Amukta Malyatha were the poems composed by the Ganga Devi and the Krishna Dev Rai respectively, that help us gain the insight into the events and the individual associated with the Vijayanagar Empire. Now Chand Bardai Prithviraj Raso portrays the Rajput king's valor. Now we have no Indian account about what happened during the Turkish invasion of the India. For the pre-Islamic period, the only exception was the Kalhana's Rajat Ragini, from which we came to know about. Now books, biographies and the autobiographies. Minhaj or Siraj patronized the Sultan Naziruddin Muhammad of the slave dynasty, wrote the Tabakat-e-Nasiri. The compendium deals with the period from the conquest of the Muhammad Ghori to the AD 1260. The compendium was named after his patron. Now in the 13th century, Hassan Nizami, a migrant from the Ghazni, wrote the Tazul Masir towards the end of the Iltutmish rule. Now it provides the information about the Kutubuddin Aibak and is considered the first official history of the Delhi Sultanate. Now Zia-ul-Barni, you all know about the Barni, a courtier of the Muhammad Tughlaq. Now these names are the very famous, and these books are the famous that you have to write, and the UPSC also writes. So Zia-ul-Barni was in the court of the Muhammad Tughlaq. He wrote the Tariq-e-Firoz Shahi. Now he was in the Muhammad Tughlaq court, and he after his death he said that the people have been freed, the king has been freed, and the people are also freed from the king. Now in which they dealt with the history of the Delhi Sultanate, Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, Ghiyasuddin Balban, to early years of the regime of the Firoz Shah Tughlaq, and the Farista Tariq-e-Farista deals with the history of the rise of the Mughal power in India. Now the Ziauddin Barni has said that the Sultan freed from his subjects and subjects freed from the Sultan in the Tariq-e-Firoz Shahi में इसने लिखा था. So that means कि इतने लोग परेशान हो गए थे इसकी मिसकंडक्ट से. मोहम्मद बिन तुगलक के बारे में हम पढ़ेंगे. Now, Tabakat is an Arabic word meaning the generations and the centuries. Tuzuk is a Persian word that means the Tuzuk-e-Babari means the autobiography. Tariq is a Tahqiq are the Arabic words for the history. Now, in the 16th century, the Akbar, Emperor Babar, wrote the Babarnama. Abul Fazl wrote the Ane-Akbari, and the Akbarnama provided the detailed information about these two emperors. In the 17th century, Jahangir wrote his memoir, that is the Tuzuk-e-Jahangiri. Then throwing a lot of the light on the period. Now, apart from the autobiography of the empire, Tabakat-e-Akbari, authored by the Nizamuddin Ahmad, is considered reliable than the exaggerate account of the Abul Fazl. Now similarly, Badauni's outstanding work Tariq-e-Badauni, that the Badauni's history, was published in the 1595. Now this work spans 3 volumes. The volume on the Akbar regime is a frank and the critical account of the Akbar's administration, particularly on his religious policies. Then travel accounts and the travel logs, from them also we came to know about the sources. So Marco Polo, a Venetian traveler, visited when the Pandya kingdom was becoming the leader Tamil power in the 13th century. Marco Polo was twice in the Kayal, which was a port city presently in the Thothukudi district of the Tamil Nadu. Now it was full of the ships from the Arabia and the China. Marco Polo tells us that he himself come by a sea from the China. According to Marco Polo, thousands of the horses were imported in the southern India by the sea from Arabia and the Persia. Now you all know that the horse is not an Indian, but it is a Central Asia animal from the Central Asia. Al-Barni accompanied the Muhammad of Ghazni in one of his campaign and stayed in India for 10 years. सो अल-बर्नी जो है वो आया था किसके साथ? महमूद ऑफ गजनी के साथ आया था और वो 10 साल भारत में रहा था. द मोस्ट एक्यूरेट अकाउंट ऑफ द महमूद सोमनाथ टेम्पल Somnath expedition is that of the Al-Birni. As learned man and a scholar, he traveled all over the India trying to understand India and her people. He learned the Sanskrit and studied the philosophy in the India in his book Tehqiq-e-Hind. So these books are also important. So which book is written by the Al-Birni? Tehqiq-e-Hind. Al-Birni discuss the Indian condition, systems of the knowledge and the social norms and religion. Ibn Battuta, this is also important, and Ibn Battuta has been asked by the UPSC, is an Arab-born Morocco scholar. Traveled from the Morocco right across the North Africa to the Egypt and then Central Asia and to the India. His travelogue, that is the Rihala, the travels, contain the rich details about the people and the countries he visited. According to him, Egypt was the rich then because of the wall of the Indian trade with the West passed through the it. सो इजिप्ट जो था वो एक बीच में पड़ता था और सारी ट्रेड यहाँ से होके जाती थी. डेट्स वाई द इजिप्ट वॉज अ रिच कंट्री. इबन बबूता टेल्स अस ऑफ द कास्ट इन द इंडिया एंड प्रैक्टिस ऑफ द सती. नाउ वी लर्न फ्रॉम him the Indian merchants were carrying on a brisk trade in the foreign parts and the Indian ships in the seas. He describes the city of the Delhi as a vast and the magnificent city. Those were the days when Sultan Muhammad bin Tughlaq transferred his capital from Delhi to Daulatabad, and that was a बिग थिंग डेट ही डिड. सो इसने क्या किया, अपनी दिल्ली से देवनागरी मतलब कि महाराष्ट्र ले जाएगा. एंड ही विल थॉट दैट ही वुड बी एट अ बेटर हैंड व्हेन ही वुड बी रूलिंग फ्रॉम द सेंट्रल एरिया ऑफ द इंडिया. सो ही शिफ्टेड हिज कैपिटल फ्रॉम दिल्ली टू देवगिरी. नाउ एट दैट टाइम दीज पीपल यूज टू ट्रेवल थ्रू the carts and the animal carriers. Then the half of the population died in the journey. So for example, he was going from the Delhi to the, वो दिल्ली से लेके देवनागरी तक आ रहा था. He was coming to the Delhi to देवनागरी. Now if I also have to travel in a train, then it will take me 3 days. Now they are traveling through the foot and on the animal carriers, then it will took them 30 days. Now half of the population died in between, and a loss of the so much of the revenue was there. Then what happened, then he found that it is useless, so that the Arabs will invade. Arabs जो हैं वो हमला कर देंगे. Arabs will invade when he is in the central Devanagari. So he again take a decision and went back to the Delhi and made the Delhi as his capital. Then again the half of the population died, so there was so much of the loss in between, and the people lost the faith in him. So अगर आप पे भरोसा करके लोग जा रहे हैं, अगर लोग आप पे भरोसा कर रहे हैं एंड आपके साथ जा रहे हैं, तो वो आपको रास्ते में ही मरवा दिया. So that was the thing. Now in the south, Vijayanagar had many foreign visitors who left behind their detailed account of the state. An Italian named the Niccolo Conti come to the 1420. Do make a chart बना लेना, इस क्लास के बाद चार्ट बना लेना. For example, make a chart like this. So make like the who are the foreign travelers के लिए. For example, Ibn Battuta कहाँ से आया? He came from the Morocco. Now from Morocco, which book name? Rihala. So write like this. Then make a chart for the other one, that is the Niccolo Conti. Now he came in the which year? Niccolo Conti came in the 1443 and 1420. Write about him. Now Abdul Razak came from the heart, that is the court of the great Khan in the Central Asia in the 1443. Now Domingo Pais, a Portuguese travel, visited the city of the in the 1552. All of them recorded their observation, which are very useful for us to study the glory of the Vijayanagar Empire. Now this was all a small chapter. Okay, it would be there, but it would be when you will make with your own hand, then it will go into your mind deep knowledge. So a revision would also be held like this. एक revision भी हो जाएगा और आपका एक table भी तैयार हो जाएगा. Now this was all in this chapter, so we will be doing the next chapter. So that is the emergence of the new kingdoms in the North India. So we would be going to do right after this. So I would be giving you a new link, so do connect with that.